If I meet a girl that recognizes me, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Welcome to another episode of the Modern Success Podcast. Today, I am met with a legend in the world of meeting women, seduction, and all that jazz. I got Mr. Casey Johnson here. What's up, brother?
How's it going, Jared? Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, for those who don't know or have been living under a rock, Casey Johnson is the winner of Season 1 FBoy Island. We could say the real name, Fuckboy Island here. Was also on Season 2 Fuckboy Island. Kind of one, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that one in a bit. I still give you props on. I definitely want to talk about that in a bit, but absolute legend. I want to go on record saying I was sold and hooked on you, Casey, when the Season 1, when I was watching you in action. The moment you got CJ's her name, right? CJ alone. Yep. And you made that instant little connection, like, oh, we're both CJ and da-da-da, whatever. I'm like, oh, this guy, like, he's my pick. So I want to go on record, be like, from that moment, I saw that, I'm like, this guy's going to do it. He's an FBoy. I'm not sure if they announced or not, but I'm like, he knows too much or whatever. Let's start with the most obvious question I think everybody probably asks, and I've done a lot of stuff with reality television too, but I know everyone's going to want to know this. How much of this is real? How much of this is scripted? What would you say is like your experience actually going through it?
Yeah, I mean, Jared, that's the question I get the most. Out of anything, people maybe they're like, hey, was it real? Was it real? I mean, I would like to say 90% is real. I'm meeting this girl for the first time. The only adjustment you have to make is, all right, you sit down and there's 4 cameras on you, And so that's definitely frightening, but I would say it's 90% real. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go on there and talk about stuff off topic. I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, there's a direction the conversation has to go. Certain people understand that. Certain people don't. There's also certain things you can't talk about on reality TV. So am I going to sit there and talk about, the holidays or your favorite sports team? No. So I would say it's about 90% real, and, it's kind of like speed dating. You got to get in there and make your point known, or you're going to get, someone else is going to take it over.
So now, all right. So now that we got the big obvious question, but on, I want to get to the fun shit now. I want to get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
So in my world, right, in the seduction world, dating coach world, PUA world, all this stuff, whatever, it is crazy tactical. All right. We're talking about guys who, even myself, I was a complete nerd when I first started. Guys who know my journey know I was anything from an FBoy, anything from a ladies guy. And going through my journey, complete and utter nerd. I still have a nerd. I got Iron Man right there in the back. How much for this? Because with you, I feel like were you a natural? Did you learn a lot of stuff about women before going on the show? Was this something that you felt was very strategic, or was this kind of like, hey, I'm just going to be me, and whatever happens, happens. I've got experience, and let's see where the cards fall. Like, how strategic were you with all this?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ask anyone, this was a long time coming. I mean, I was built. This is kind of what I was built for. I think growing up, man, like once I first started to realize, when you're growing up, you don't really think about looks or anything like that. And I think there's definitely, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the best looking guy in the world, but there's a little bit of, I think that helps. Shout out to my parents. I think, high school, middle school, all the girls thought I was cute. So as I got older, I did everything for girls. Like I was good at sports, but I wanted to play sports because if I was good at sports, it helped me get girls. And I think the most important thing is, that was like, and then I got to college and I'm like, oh, it's all about girls. Like I spent, I was like going out. How can I get this girl? And like from 19 to 22 was all about just, what do's and don'ts, how to approach. But I've always, in the least narcissistic way, I think getting a girl is so much more about like emotional intelligence. Because, anyone can be attractive, walk into a room and garner attention. Oh, that guy's good looking. But the minute you sit down within the first 30 seconds with someone can determine a whole bunch. And I think I just always had from an early age, like an innate confidence. Like I remember being in high school and I'm like, dude, I could get Kylie Jenner right now if she just saw me. Like, and it wasn't from a cocky standpoint. I just always was like, you know what? Like, and if I don't, I was never scared. Like, as if I don't get the girl, like, it's okay. Like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So going in, hey, sorry about that.
I got to do my own over.
to answer your question, uh, one second. Sorry.
You're golden. You're golden. I guess I'm just very curious, did you ever read books on this stuff? Did you ever watch videos on this stuff? Or is it all like self-taught of like your experience and your understanding? It's all come from you? Or did you ever like try to learn it from other places?
No, I don't think so. I think honestly, my biggest, I don't want to say it's like I'm some type of philosopher, but no, it was all natural. I didn't do any planning, no reading any books. What I did was grow up watching religiously 2.5 Men and Californication. I mean, I watched Californication, and Hank Moody was like my idol from like 17 to 22. Probably not the best. Some girls have paid for that. But yeah, I mean, going into FBoy Island, I had no strategy, nothing. I was like, just get there and be yourself. Don't do anything. Don't do anything less, and don't do anything more. It's been working for you.
So, all right. So let's talk strategy. So you're there now. Obviously, a lot of guys who get into, in my industry who find me or listen to podcasts, there's a lot of toxic. I feel toxic belief of it's all looks. It's all about money. That's all women want. Looks, money, blah, blah, blah. I love what you said earlier. No, it's about emotional intelligence, social intelligence, about being able to read people and how you portray yourself and how you calibrate to certain people and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people, that's lost on them. And you're here objectively a very, a good-looking guy. But a lot of guys are going to be like, oh, well, he's good-looking. The beautiful thing I loved about this show is you're surrounded by, like, bodybuilders pretty much. You're surrounded by really good-looking guys. Your looks didn't win it for you. Your looks is not why Casey or CJ picked you. It was your game. It was how you made her feel. And I feel like that's lost on a lot of guys. So talk to me. You're in that moment. In my mind, when I watch the show, there's 3 phases. Phase 1, you had to get noticed. There's a shit ton of guys. Phase 2, it's like, all right, she's vibing with a few different guys. I have to now stand out. I've got to like build something here. And then there's phase 3. I got to close the deal. I got the chance to pick me over the last 1 or 2 guys. So phase 1, what's going through your mind? How were you thinking? I need to stand out from all these guys. You picked I think she was the hottest one of the 3 girls right there, easily.
Yeah.
So you went for gold. You're just like, I'm going to go all in on like the main one that everybody wants. What's going through your mind? Talk to me about this. What was your strategy? What were you thinking? How did you feel you would vibe with her?
Yeah, for sure. And, you make a good point. Like you see all these guys and I'm like, all right, that's the one thing I love about being on the island is that looks don't matter. Like every single person there is good looking in their own right. So it's like, how can you separate yourself? And honestly, I mean, I got a little bit lucky. I'm standing up there with all these other guys and CJ was like, hey, I want to, she ended up giving me a wristband and wanted to have some extra time. So I said, all right, as soon as I get this alone time with her, I have to really, and I'm not going to sit here and say I was not fully confident. I was nervous. Like I'm nervous. I got
cameras on you and whatnot.
Yeah, you got cameras on you, but I know, like I've always said this and believe this in myself, is like the same thing in real life. If I could just get a first date, because there's girls, like I said, who you know what, and then money doesn't matter when I'm there. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how jacked you are. So I think my strategy was like, all right, she noticed me. I thankfully I'm a little bit taller than most people. Right. So I think I'm standing there, and it helped, and so I get some alone time, and I think that was like my biggest thing was like, all right, you get 2 minutes with her, let her know that you're smart, that you can talk, and find a way to just connect. And in my head, I'm like, all right, bam, I'm Casey Joseph, and I said it, and I was nervous, so I said it like 4 times, but I think just being myself, and I didn't push it too hard. I wasn't like, oh, like let me try to kiss you. So I think it was just putting it in her head. Honestly, I was like, you know what? Just don't say anything dumb. I'm like, some of these other guys, and I've always been good at that, is kind of reading the room. And so I think my strategy at first was just like go in there and don't say too much and don't say too little, but don't say anything dumb.
That's the hope. That's the hope I want. I always tell my guys on coaching calls is you have no idea how just utterly incompetent and bad your competition is. Guys are awful. So much is just like, you don't have to do that much. You just have to be better than dog shit. Like, literally. They're clueless. So many guys are clueless.
Bar is so low. And the one thing I always say to guys, if I'm trying to help them out when it comes to a one-on-one conversation or a first date, just let them talk. Like if I go on a first date, I will make it, and it's in, do I care? Yeah, of course. But it's like, one, I'm going to ask you questions. I'm just going to keep asking you questions and let you talk, because then what do you feel? you feel like I care about you.
Right.
You feel like I'm interested, which I am. I'm not. It's not. Don't be don't be ingenuine about it. But I think for me, it's like I put everything back on you, where it's like, and then at the end of the night, they're like, wow, like he asked me all this really cute stuff, and I still don't really know much about him, and it's mysterious. And so I think there's a level of nonchalantness, but at the same time, not being too nonchalant. So that's kind of how I went into it.
Yeah, I teach the same thing for the connection, but in my methodology, I know you don't know much about, whatever, but we got 5 phases we teach: the comfort, playful, flirting, connecting, and then sensual. And what you're talking about right now, for me, that's literally what we teach on the connecting side is get her opening up to you. Because most guys, what are they going to do? They're going to try to impress. They're going to be like, oh, you got a dog, I got a dog. You're into this, I'm into this, blah, blah. And they're going to be a doormat versus you tell me, you sell yourself to me. Why are you different than these other girls? Let me, tell me your amazing qualities, and then let me fall in love with you for the qualities you're portraying that have nothing to do with your looks. And especially when I think that why that works so well with CJ is you're on a competition show, right? Yeah. So he has all these guys who are literally just going out of their way, like dancing monkeys trying to impress her, and you're the one guy going, you tell me about yourself. Let me just hear about you. Let me see if I'm vibing with you. And that stands out, obviously.
For sure. And I think it's, guys get caught up in that the whole time, especially when it comes, I see it every single day, whether it's the car or the money. And it's like, I've been around top tier girls who honestly, I don't have that much money. I mean, I've competed against professional athletes. I've competed against other famous guys, and not to be a narcissistic dickhead, but I always win because they ultimately, if you can provide the basics for a girl, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Yeah, to some women, it's like, take care of me, but those aren't the type of women that personally I want to be with. But I think when you stand out is, let them open up to you, and don't sit there and go on and on, because eventually, half those guys eliminated themselves because they said something dumb, or they said something stupid, or it's like, I don't want to. It's not all about you. And I think a lot of guys forget that, and they try to go too far, impress. I have this, I do that. Whereas my approach has always been, well, what do you do? Or what do you like to do? Or what's your family like? Because now you see that I care. So that's kind of how I try to say, and I think it worked. Obviously it's been working.
How did it, going into a show like this and hitting it off with CJ, how do you feel it compared or was different than in everyday normal life, trying to meet a girl at a bar or out there? Do you feel it was very similar? Do you feel like this was night and day different? Like, talk to us on that.
Yeah, I think very, very similar. And once you get used to the fact that there's cameras and other people, I mean, it's just, the pace is very quick because it is a dating show. So, you're going on one date, and then you immediately move into the next date, and there's no outside factor. So I really can't compare it to a normal day-to-day life because we don't have our phones. There's no other option. This girl is the only option, as where, in real life, you have multiple people you could be talking to at once, or you're like, oh, well, this didn't work out, so I'm going to go on a date with her. So I wouldn't say it's a forced connection, because I mean, we did. Like, I think you could see that on screen too at the time when people viewed it. They were like, oh, like if they met out in public at a bar, like they would be having the same conversation. So, fortunately it did flow very natural, but at the same time, I think that's one of the things is, I don't want to say I am manipulative, but I'm very malleable. Like, I can be as soon as I know who the girl wants me to be, I can turn into that in a second.
We call it in our what we call it, being the chameleon. You can blend in whatever environment and you can make it work. And again, I think that goes back to what you said earlier. I don't think it's manipulation. I look at it as, again, just high levels of emotional and social intelligence.
Precisely.
Right? Okay, like if this is, for example, the way I always teach it is like, if aliens came to Earth, and maybe that's how the aliens are, they greet people by licking their face. Yeah, we should teach them, no, that's not the way to do it. Like you should shake somebody's hand, look them in the eye. That's a very basic level of social intelligence. What we're talking about is just higher rung and higher levels. If you know that someone's going to respond well to something, why would you not do that? Right? Like, that's just, that's just point blank understanding people at a high level. It's amazing that came all naturally to you. That's very impressive, and kudos to you, for being able to develop that on your own. But I don't, manipulation to me is getting somebody to do something that's only for your benefit and not theirs. That to
Agreed.
me, that's
For sure.
manipulation.
100%. And I think there's also, a level of it where I can super easily separate my emotions. Like, I'm not driven by sex at all. Like, I don't go out and I'm like, my goal tonight is to hook up with someone. And it hasn't been for a long time. Yeah, from 19 to 22 in college. Yeah, that was my goal. But those were the learning years where it's like, all right, like that's only going to get you so far. So for me, I think sometimes guys can't harness that sexual drive where it's like, listen, like that's not the goal. The goal for me anytime I go on a first date or hang out with someone is to just have them thinking about me as soon as I walk out that door. And you're right, it's not manipulation. It's just being able to be a chameleon and understand people's emotional and what gets them excited and what's gonna leave a taste in their mouth. You're like, wow. Like every time I go on a first date, and I don't, it's like I just know. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be different because I can do this A, B, C, and by the time I leave, they're gonna want. And it's not even playing games. Like I don't play games. I'm a very direct person, especially as I get older. But there's a level of confidence that you have to have instilled in yourself to know that I'm going to be different. And when I leave this room, she's going to be like, what the fuck? Like, who is this guy?
So moving on to phase 2 and phase 3,
yeah,
really attracting and sealing the deal with her. Were there any moments that stood out either where you're like, I got her, it's over. Like this moment, I got her, or maybe the opposite where you're like, oh shit, like I fucked up. I got damage control to do. Did any big pivotal moments stand out for you in what happened with CJ?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everything went well at first. So, conversation is very important, and our conversation was undeniable, and our flirty banter and chemistry was there. But the thing about reality TV is you constantly have people in your ear, and the show can't be boring. And I think it was very evident from the beginning that CJ was going to pick me. I mean, there was after our first date and our first kiss, I'm like, I'm good. Like, there's no way in which I lose this. And then as the show goes on, there was a clear change in her. I don't think it was her. I think there's a lot of people in her, which is fine. It's a show. I understand there's going to be ups and downs, but there became a line where she started, saying, hey, like, you're just you're a baby, or you're just my little she called me something, my little boy toy. Oh, she's like, you're just my boy toy. And so for me, I'm like, all right, I don't think that's coming from her, but at the same time, I have to deal with this, and I have to change this narrative of I'm not just some flaying, because you have me being 24, she's 30, there's older guys, so it's like I kind of was like, oh, that was right in the middle where I had to change this narrative. How can I change this narrative of me being boy toy or someone who's just a fun fling to, oh wait, I can take him seriously as a man, as a boyfriend, as a potential whatever it is. So that was the damage control. And then there was a moment where I stood up for myself and I said, and I'll never forget this, and I don't regret it. I think there were a lot of times where she was telling me like I couldn't be friends with Garrett, or I couldn't be friends with whoever, and it became one of those things like, listen, like I don't need you. Like I want, and I think that's a huge thing is like, I never need a girl. I never need a woman. I never need anyone. And so I did stand up.
She might not like that, but she will respect that. And it's that willingness to walk away, especially girls of like CJ's caliber.
Right.
They're not used to that often from guys. They're used to guys being doormats. So when they get that from a guy, they don't like it. And sometimes in order to really build a deep attraction with a girl, you don't always do everything they like, but they will respect it.
110%. And I think that goes for my everyday life. Like you gotta know what's best for you. And so for me, I was like, hey, listen, like I like you. And I had a little bit to drink, but I basically said, I don't feel like I don't want to be your boy toy. Like you're either going to really take me seriously. Like I'm doing everything I can. And I want to communicate, and I want to, have this be a two-way street where we both kind of give, 100%. And she took that as, Casey's confused. I think she said, and Casey's checking me. And I'm like, you're right. I am checking you because I know you're she's in a place of power. And the only situation that is on a reality television show where she just happened to be the lead. But I just don't think even in her day-to-day life, living in LA, and she's amazing. I love her. I have nothing but good things to say about her, but she's not used to having someone, especially a 24-year-old from Ohio, stand up to her. And so I caught some backlash, but I look back and I don't regret it. And I got a lot of good feedback from social media, whereas like Casey was just standing up for himself. I didn't say anything wrong. I didn't say, fuck you, like you don't treat me like that. And I treaded very lightly, but it is what it is. And I think that created that attraction of like, oh, he's willing to stand up for himself. He's willing. I don't want to hear it, but I will respect it.
Well, we got CJ in the waiting room listening, and we're gonna bring her on to get her thoughts on. No, I'm fucking not. Like, wait a minute.
I think she's engaged now. So.
Okay, so yeah, so off screen, by the way, what happened with you? Did it just not work out? It fizzled, or?
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's so tough. I think the biggest thing for me being 27 now is like I don't want. I mean, it's distance. It's distance. It's today's day and age.
You're in Nashville. Like, how are you?
Yeah, and at the time I was still in Ohio. It's just tough, and I think anytime you're dealing with a girl, because I have my different categories of how I categorize a woman who lives in each city. Like I think I have, and I don't want to categorize everyone, but I have the LA girls, the New York City girls, the Chicago. They're all different, and I think for me, if I was going to date a girl from LA, I'd have to live in LA, and I don't foresee myself ever living in LA. So,
what about Garrett? Are you still in touch with him? Does the bromance still going strong?
Yeah, I mean, me and Garrett have been friends for this has been years now. I actually just talked to him today. I talked to him on the phone about a cool project that I'm working on. So yeah, we're that was a friendship that will definitely last a lifetime. I mean, such a good dude. I love him, man. Like and I spent so much time with him. That's people don't understand. They don't know that behind the scenes. The guys got to spend more time together than we did with the girls.
Well, I think that definitely showed the problem. Yeah. That definitely played on the screen. Everybody saw him like that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Moving on to season 2, that you coming on. Well, first off, what made you want to come back again? Was it just like it was fun experience? Were you really looking for love on that one? Was like what's going through your mind to come back and do this all over again?
Yeah, I mean, you really have to be realistic about it. I think season 1, I really gave my emotional all, where I was like, I don't know what this is going to be, but I'm only going to get to experience this. And so I think the emotional toll I took in season 1 was just draining. And so for season 2, once you get back into your real life, then you forget about things real quickly. And so for me, when I got offered to do season 2, that was definitely a business move for me. Having already been on there, knowing that the possibility of actually finding love was very, very slim. So in my head, I'm like, all right, these producers who I'm very close with, and the people who created the show want me to come back, and it just was a good partnership on my end. So like, yeah, like why not? Why not when I go back? And it's led to some really cool things. So season 2 was definitely a business move for me, and I think you could definitely tell. I mean, anyone who watched it. But I still made it to the end. Obviously, it was still a little bit of competitiveness, but some of this shit that I got away with on season 2, I think just was because of my reputation from season 1 in a good way. I mean, I came back there with a little extra, I think, confidence, a little bit extra swagger.
Absolutely. You've not only played the game before, you won it, you proven that, and now you've got the clout, you've got this like a little bit of that the fame factor where everybody there obviously watched the show season 1, so that's in your favor. How did it change, or do you feel it was different, your approach, your style, your strategy? Was there anything different with Tamaris than CJ, or was it pretty much like just another day, another like?
I mean, it was just it's for me, and I don't even want to sound like, cocky or arrogant, but it was just another day, and some of the guys would get so mad. They're like, "You're not even trying," and I'm like, "Dude, I don't know how to tell you this. Like, I don't have to.
Right?
Like, I don't have to." And it didn't. Anything I ever do never comes from a level of disrespect. Like, I met Tamaris, and I was like, we might not be a good fit, per se in the real world. But at the end of the day, I did what I had to do. Make her laugh, connect with her. And then we're still we're friends, and there's no hard feelings there, but yeah, I mean nothing changed
at the end of her keeping the money. Did any part of you foresee that coming, or like was that just wrong? What the hell?
that's still a sensitive topic for me, man. Because at that point, you know, I'm sitting there like, oh, I'm about to split $100,000 with this girl. I mean, and in my head, I'm like, all right, we got $50,000 now to go do whatever we need to do to get to the next level or whatever I want to do next. And at the time, you know, there were talks of a possible F Girl Island. And I was like, all right, you know, once that happened, I was completely blindsided. I was so angry. I'll never forget that. I'm sitting there, she drops a bomb, and I'm just like, you know, almost visibly couldn't speak. I just walked off, and I was like, you know, because that was, you know, we had been together the night before, and she had told me I was going to be picked, and she lied. So it was hurtful. But, you know, at that point, I'm like, all right, like, you always have to remember that it's showbiz, it's business. And in the back of my head, I was like, maybe, you know, this is setting me up to potentially do F Girl Island.
So speaking, are we allowed to talk about F Girl Island or what's in the works there? Or
I've heard they already shot it. I don't know who's going to be on it. There's a possibility of maybe something of the show coming out, and but yeah, I know a little bit, but I can't say too much about it. But I know F Girl Island is coming out 2024.
do you feel? Let me ask you this: do you feel with the dynamic change where the guys are the prize now and the girls are fighting over the guys and all that shit? Do you feel it's going to be as wild and as tactical or strategic as FBoy Island? Because FBoy Island, like that's how it is in the real world. These girls are surrounded by guys. You had to stand out. Like, that shit's real. F Girl Island, I'm curious what that might look like. With the girls are standing out. Are they being hot? Are they being fun? But you tell me, do you feel it's going to have the same kind of impact with FBoy Island or the same strategy involved?
I think F Girl Island is going to be Boy Island on steroids. I mean, you want to talk about tactical. I mean, girls are cutthroat. Women are cutthroat, and they're very much, I mean, you're talking, you know, girls do research. They have, you know, so I think it's going to be not only is the drama going to be a lot higher, the emotions are higher. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think F Girl Island will probably be the best show of 2024.
Oh, yeah? All right.
Best reality show.
I'm looking forward to that then. I'm excited. Did you learn your lesson on FBoy on season 1 about the social media of like having your Instagram dialed in and like, because we know they're going to snoop and look, like, have you learned any lessons about how to keep your Instagram the right way or no?
That's something I'm still working on. It just depends on the girl. It truly depends on the girl. You know, I know some girls that don't necessarily care about social media, but that's like 1 every 10. Any girls that I deal with are going to be on social media.
I'm about to say, so I know Snoop's on social media. That's
100%. So I tend to just keep it like as private as I can, especially being somewhat in the limelight, because, you know, people know stuff about me before I even know stuff about me sometimes. And I learn about my dating life online that I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, I mean, their ability to be detectives is always impressive.
Yeah.
It's very uncanny. So in the real world, so for the guys, so definitely, you guys, if you haven't checked out FBoy Island 1 and 2, it is amazing. I'm putting it up there with the great, you know, Californication. I would say the movie Spread. I don't know if you've seen that movie. There's a lot of like great stuff where you can learn really tangible tactical stuff. I was there eating my popcorn going like, I've got to break everything down. This is epic. Let's talk about the real world though, right? Any advice for the guys listening? Let's go over some of the biggest questions I'm asked, and I would love, because again, you don't study this. This is just whatever's natural for you.
For sure.
I would love to get your take. So, you see a girl, either at a bar at nighttime, or maybe you're out with your buddies, or you see a girl at a bar, or maybe you see a girl walking on the sidewalk in the daytime. What is your approach in these scenarios? How do you open and go talk to this girl?
Yeah. I mean, obviously this is going to be depending on, you know, I think you have to understand yourself, understand what you're good at. And at the end of the day, you know, looks is a big thing. So I think you have to, you know, unfortunately, you know, if you're, whatever your strengths are, use it to them. But let's say, so it's a girl that's in your league per se.
Sure.
I think I always like to lead with like a compliment or something. Like, and not like a listen, like I'm like a very specific person, but not in a weird way. Like I'm trying to think, like the other day, or, you know, I'm at a bar And this girl and we make eye contact, and you know, I was like, wow, like I love I love your shoes. Where'd you get them from? And it's not, and she's like, you know, or it's like, oh my gosh, like I love your dress. Where'd you get it from? Get her talking, or just something about them. Like, you know, girls take a lot of pride in their face. I'm like, I love your eyebrows. Like your eyebrows are incredible.
I was literally one of my techniques. I did fuck up, and guys can fact check this. I've taught this is one of my lines is you have the #1 eyebrows here. Your eyebrows are on point. That's literally one of my lines.
Yeah.
No one fucking notices that shit, and they pluck it, and every time their face lights up. Every time.
I go, dude, I'm telling you, I love your eyebrows, or I'm like, your teeth are perfect. Like, and and they start smiling. They're like, no way. Like, and so you already make them feel good. And then it's just conversation. I think just there's a fine line, and it comes with a lot of practice. But yeah, I love your eyebrows, or I love your. I'm like, you're sure your top is so cute. Like, where'd you get it from? Like, kind of like my biggest thing I'll say, I treat every single girl like a friend. Not like a friend, but my mindset is like, because you know, if you go in there and you're like, this girl, I have to impress her, like you're immediately going to doubt yourself or think there's pressure to capitalize. Whereas me, I just go over there and keep it casual, like especially girls that I'm first meeting, because eventually they're like, oh, wait a second, like we've been talking for 20 minutes and he's cute, like he's cute, like he's cute, or he's not worried, he's not stressed. So I like to keep it very, very, but not put myself in the friend zone. I'm not sitting there like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? But I'm just keeping conversation very casual. Like, I love your eyebrows. I'm not like, oh my God, like you're so fucking hot. Like they'll be like, what?
Right.
So I think just those small things, noticing those small details is kind of how I'd approach it. And then just let the conversation flow naturally from there.
Love that. I mean, this is something I got from my mentor when I was going through and learning this.
Yeah.
He goes, I want you to approach that girl and just become friends with her. I'm like, what? You were friends? I thought we were supposed to seduce her and attract her and try to get laid and all this shit. He goes, just try to befriend her, right? I'm like, how much more does that take the pressure off? Number one. And number two, it makes the approach 1,000 times better because you're making her feel comfortable on the approach. When most guys, you know, compliments don't work. It's like, no, compliments work. It's just the way you're fucking doing it. Like going, wow, you're so hot. You're so sexy. Oh, you got a great ass. You got whatever. Like all this shit versus be specific, ideally, on something she values and is invested in. One of my favorites, I guess it's not it's so much a compliment, but it's more like a playful one. Feel free to use this, by the way. I'd be honored if you stole one of my favorite is, oh my God, I was going to wear the exact same dress tonight. How embarrassing would that have been? And then they'll usually always, the lads will go, it'd be pretty embarrassing for you. And I'm like, to be fair, man, I do have the ass for it. You got to give me that.
I like that.
And another one, if you're really stuck and you want to give a good compliment, comes from one of our top coaches, Cosmo, also reality star, won the VH1 show, The Pickup Artist. His favorite opener is, hey, I just had to come and say, you seem like you have this really great energy. I just have to tell you. And just, that's it. Like, you just have really great, you seem like you have really great energy.
Yeah.
You have nothing specific to compliment. Anybody can have good energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of it's pickup lines. And I think when people use pickup lines, you've already failed. At that point,
I think, I think of this eliminating the pickup line in general. There's no such thing as a pickup line. I think you made a really good point. Is honestly, like in today's day and age, the biggest thing is comfortability. Like if a girl feels safe, if a girl feels comfortable around you, you're already in. And I think the best way to go about that, because when a guy comes over and a girl can just feel like, oh, he just wants to sleep with me, or and then the minute you're like, oh, like he's just kind of like, he's just like my friend. Like I feel comfortable around him. Then that creates a level of attraction because now you don't seem desperate. Now you don't seem like you're trying. You don't want anything. And so you leave and you're like, wait, and then they're like, wait, he doesn't want me. Then that's my biggest thing is like, oh, I'm like, yeah, like I'll just fuck around because I'm kind of an asshole and I can get away with that. But I'm like, yeah, I'm like, honestly, like I just love being your friend. And they're like, wait. Like,
and that's from another rule we have is you can always take a girl out of your friend zone, but you don't want to be in her friend zone.
Precisely.
So, one of the key things that we preach, or we're very big on here at Modern Success, is you should have a lot of female friends. The idea, and I don't know where you feel on this, whatever. What I found is, again, like what I found from my experiences, women are essentially currency. And back in the day, I discovered this back in like 2009, I want to say, where if I walk up to any club, you're in Nashville, I could go to any club in Nashville, or I did this in Vegas, Miami, San Diego's the biggest place in the world. A lot of guys go to the club and they're trying to find a hot girl. I would show up with anywhere between 6 to 15 girls with me already. And it's a completely different game because now, number one, I'm going to be promoters to like, here's a free table. So you're going to be broke as shit. You're like, I got a table. I'm surrounded by girls. Number two, I'm playing my own version, I guess, of F-Girl Island, where I've got my SEAL team. I got my my homegirls who love me and they vouch for me and they're all attractive, right? And they are all making me look good. It's a psychological concept that's called pre-selection. So other girls are looking over like, who the fuck's this guy that's surrounded by all these other girls? He clearly has options, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's you look good because you're surrounded by girls, I've gotten free trips on a 100-foot yacht to the Bahamas because I was able to bring 3 girls on this guy's yacht. Whether it's free travel, tables at the club, VIP mansion parties, when you're a guy who's always rolling into places with girls on your arms, attractive women, even if you're just friends, even if it's just platonic, opportunities open to you, including with women. The girl I'm dating right now, I'm 30. Well, I'm 38. I'm 38 coming up real soon. So I guess I'm 38 now. She's 23. She's an Instagram model, but she knew before we started dating, she was part of my entourage of 6 other girls that we were friends with, but she stood out. And I believe that through other gorgeous women, you can meet the right type of girls and just get introduced, and it just keeps expanding. But I do believe, and here maybe we're going to have some controversy on this, and that's okay too. I invite it.
Yeah.
The F-boy mentality, from what I've seen, from real like F-boy, like the player guy, I'm not saying that's you anymore, but the real like players guys, a lot of times they don't have that. And they don't leverage and go into that because they just want to run through every single girl they meet. If they're attractive, I'm going to fuck her. Like, I'm not going to do whatever. But I have found a lot with benefits. Instead of hunting, it's like farming. You know, you got to grow the plant and then you can fuck the plant. But later, you got to do that later. But does any of that resonate with you? Or I'm curious about your strategy with that. Do you roll out with a lot of girls, or is it kind of just like, hey, if the girl's around me, we're hitting it off or we're not, and that's it?
Yeah, I think you can go. I think you can be. There's a very fine line there. There's a very fine line because you can maybe. I've never personally, been the guy to have a bunch of girls around me because one, it could be one of those things where you could look like a playboy. I would say if you are going to be around a lot of girls, you have to be very cognizant to keep it very friendly. Like you can't be going to each girl in the friend group and acting like this, or you have to keep it in. But for me, because then it's like, okay,
there's definitely politics involved. I will say that
there's politics involved, and there is a level of aspect which makes sense where a guy that has options, or a guy that's taken, it's naturally you're going to be more desirable.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to be, I would advise to keep it very careful. Like, whereas like if I am at a bar and I do have 3 or 4 girls who are my friends, I'm making it very obvious that I have female attention and I could probably get them if I wanted to, but there's a girl that I'm looking at and in the corner, there's a girl that I would like to. So I think it's just because being a fuckboy it doesn't work anymore. You might be able to hook up with, some girls because you're good looking, but you're never going to get a high caliber of a girl anymore. Because word travels so fast. So, when I moved to Nashville and made some mistakes and, fucked over a couple of girls, I got girls that, it's going to take me a while to even get back on their radar, or potentially because, you just can't do it anymore. You can't be a playboy because it gets old real quick,
right?
Especially for girls that are, in their late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah. I got to tell you, a situation happened with me before the girl, and I love Anna, and we're in love. She runs a company with me. She's I've taught her to be a dating coach. Shout out to Anna, follow her at the Daily Flirt. But a situation actually happened to me a couple of years ago. I forget the name of this Facebook group. Maybe you've heard of it too. It pops up in all these cities. Like, are we dating the same guy? Yeah. It's a girls only Facebook group.
Yeah.
So I went on it for the first time. Some girl was like, yo, who's this Jared guy? And I have you're on F-Boy Island, so maybe you're the one guy that can compete with me on this, but I'm the guy that's like, this guy teaches other men how to get laid. This guy literally teaches game and guys, talk about like, manipulation, whatever. If anyone can get destroyed and hated on this fucking thing. Like, I'm right here, right? But what happened was, because of what I teach and because of my female friends, not only was one of my girls call me and be like, yo, you're on this Facebook group. I had 12 different women comment saying how great I am. I was the only person in this group who got to see it. Every girl's like defending me and saying like, yeah, I dated him. It didn't work, but he's, he's awesome, whatever. Hey, look, we're just friends, but you'd be lucky to get with this guy. Yes, he teaches guys, but it's not what you think, blah, blah, blah. And that really stressed to me just the power of it when you have it dialed in. And I'm telling you from experience, you can still end up sleeping with them, and there's politics involved, and you have to do it the right way, of course. But I would especially in Nashville, any major city with a big scene like that, I would love to like do some stuff with you, maybe on the side, and show you like how powerful this shit can get, because it gets wild, like wild, where I had maybe not billionaires, but I had like centimillionaire, like 10 or 100 million guys, like just inviting me on doing shit, and it's bananas. It really is crazy.
That's insane. No, I mean, I can definitely say I have not had the same experience as you. I was put on those pages and didn't even know it, and there's so much that goes into it. Girls were, and this is at a period of my time. I think there's just certain choices that I made. I've been notoriously called a love bomber.
But you're 27 right now, and during the show you were what, 24, 20?
Yeah,
like, this is your phase to enjoy it and do that kind of shit. Like, right.
Yeah. So I mean, and I think for me, and when it comes to any guy, I think advice that I would give too is you can't make your life a priority of trying to get girls or trying to go out and get laid or trying to find the right women. I think for me, like, I actually do more successful, like, I've the last 3 months I've seen such a shift in my life, because prior to, I'd be the guy that was drinking, going out, trying to flirt with every girl, trying to get laid. And eventually it got old to where the point like, oh, there's Casey talking to this girl, talking to that girl. And over the last 3 months, one day I woke up and I was like, I just want better for myself. I don't want to be that guy anymore. So I've been sober for about almost 90 days now.
Right.
And kind of curbing off the alcohol. And I'll go out still and be kind of like this mysterious. I'll go out and I'll leave at like 11:30 and not talk to a single girl all night. And then the next day I wake up and like, hey, like DMs like, hey, I saw you. You didn't, what were you doing? And so I think right now women aren't a priority in my life. But now I'm seeing the life that I'm building for myself is attracting people like, oh, he's got his shit together. Like, he's making money. He's focused on himself. He doesn't need anyone. And that makes someone more desirable, as in some guy who's going out and you can clearly tell he's chasing, he's trying. So I would say be the person you want to attract. And over time, girls will see you.
You go out, name, not the mob.
Yeah. I mean, you go out and I'll tell you what, you go out and you look good as fuck, fly as fuck. You have a couple drinks, whatever you do, and you sit there and talk with your boys, maybe mingle and introduce yourself, look them in the eyes, have a good conversation, and then you take off and go home at 11:30. Those girls will be like, yo, where did that guy go? So I think that's the one thing for me I've noticed. And yeah, I'm good looking. I could go out and, get drunk and go sleep with somebody, a 20, 22-year-old if I wanted to. But it all comes down to finding, what you want, who you want to be. And there's a lot of good caliber girls out there, no matter their age or who or what they are.
The next biggest question, I guess, we talked about approaching. We talked about, social circle and meeting with women. The next biggest question I get is, how do I get the kiss? How do I set up the kiss with a girl? Is there any Casey proven kiss routines or strategies you use? Or
man, how do you get the kiss? I can honestly say that is such an intuition thing. That is just such an intuition thing for me. That just comes down to just being socially aware. Like, you can read the room. And I think there's been a lot of times that I've done it when I've been under the influence, where I've gone for it and I've gotten away with a lot of shit because of the way that I look. But I can think, I think a lot of it is body language. If you see a girl and she's, like, there's just so many signs. If she's on her phone all night, if she's sitting to you, if she's touching you, like, whenever I go on a first date, or if I'm riding in the car with a girl, or like, I'll do little small gestures. If I like touch her leg and she's like kind of moves it off, I'm like, that rarely happens. But I think just really reading her body, like, is she facing you? Are her legs towards you? is she eye contact? If a girl's sitting there and she's making eye contact with you, especially after a date or you're at the bar and she's looking at you, I think that's the main thing. But it's very much intuition. But I think there's a lot of small body language things that you obviously probably can.
My
really
approach was very simple. If I'm talking with a girl and I can get her face like this, where if I'm doing with a guy, it feels gay, like if we're too close.
Yeah.
But if I'm close to her and we can talk like this and she's not moving away and she's allowing this for like 5 seconds, she's ready to be kissed.
Yeah.
That's like, if she's cool holding that tension, like that's never let me wrong.
Yeah. I mean, and you can always test it. Like you can go about 40-50% and like kind of start moving in. And if she starts moving in or if she backs away, I mean, if you start moving in and she's still there,
it's over. And also, I want to tell, if you guys go for a kiss and you get rejected, or she turns her head, whatever, it's not game over, which a lot of guys think. It just means not yet. It means, all right, she's not there yet. Slow down. A lot of guys just take it they get so mad or sad about the little things, or a girl didn't text you back right away. Like, I've got a whole ghost busting text guide which, by the way, guys, you can hit me up if you have a girl ghosting you. You can literally copy and paste these lines and get her messaging you right back. But that's the problem. Is guys are just like, it's over. They just think it's done. And the way I like to explain, for men, it's hard to understand, because for men, attraction's like a switch. We're like tits, yes. No, not my type, no, right? We're yes or no. We're very simple. With women, I look at attractions like a knob or like a dimmer. And even if she's going, no, less attracted now, you can do new things. You can switch up your approach, switch up your style, and you can get attraction, going the right direction again. It doesn't mean it's
for sure.
over.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just wouldn't take anything personally. Don't. It's stupid to think that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been rejected. I get rejected every single day. How many times I've shot my shot into someone's DMs and it doesn't work out. It doesn't faze me at all. It's stupid to think any guy can go out there and just go 10 for 10 for 10.
Right. Unless
you're Michael B. Jordan or somebody like that. Like, it's just not going to happen. So yeah, I think, don't take anything personally. You can always, don't take it as a negative. And that's where it comes into women shouldn't be your priority. Whereas like, oh, I didn't get her, my day's not ruined, or like I can still keep doing this. Like, I know I'm doing all the right things that I should be doing. I'm going to the gym. I'm taking care of my finances. Like I'm really making myself better. So ultimately, like, that's where it comes down to, like, you don't need her like you need water. You don't need her to survive. So if she does reject you, what's the worst thing that happens? There's a million other fucking girls that, if you're looking for your
body. A lot of guys don't think that way, though. They think if this girl doesn't like me, game over, the world's over. And that's something I work through with a lot of my guys. So let's talk about more like the playful phase now, because for a lot of guys, they may get this approach. They're open, they talk to her, but then it's just like, so where are you from? What do you do? Oh, how do you like that? Oh, that's cool. So what do you got going on this weekend? Oh, that's cool. And it's just like, I'll listen to these conversations and I'm like, I just want to, blow my brains out. Like, it's cool. So do you have any either one-liners or games you play or anything that you've done recently that you feel helps create that spark or makes things playful or helps build the attraction with especially the higher caliber girls?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is you got to perfect the art of a banter, where like I like to call it, that banter of you're not being mean, but you're not entirely, like, you're not just sitting there. Yeah. Like, how are you doing? It's like kind of like a fun, playful, it's flirting. Now that comes down to the being somewhat funny. Like, I think the best way to get a girl to like start turning that dial towards, oh, he's attractive to me. You can ask any girl, is like, I might not be, I'm good looking, but then that's when I know I can close, is making those small witty jokes. I don't really have any one-liners. I'm very reactive and I'm very good at being in the moment.
Okay.
And being funny and just being able to, like, I'm not afraid to embarrass myself as well. If we're doing karaoke, like, or something like that, or on a date and I'm playing music, like, I'm not going to be a dork, but I think if you can find a way to make a girl laugh, and that will go farther than I think anything else. And if a girl is laughing and having fun, then in her brain, she's like, anytime I'm around him, I'm happy. And so I really strive to not go out of, I'm not a fucking stand-up comic, but that banter, that playful banter, or
Is there, when you're doing the playful banter, is there anything going through your mind? Is it just kind of loose and you're just listening to what she's saying, or is there like an objective, or like are you trying to tease her on certain ways, or just
yeah, I think there's a little bit of teasing there, but nothing personal, and never condescending. And I think there's a level of like confidence that I push that's like something but yeah, I don't know, it'd be probably difficult to teach, but like I'm trying to think. I was talking to a girl, and I don't, like, shit just comes to me, and I don't want to say that in like a cocky way, but I was sitting there the other day, and this girl was like, I had some thank you notes laying out, and they were for something else, and she walked in, and she's like, "What are those thank you notes?" I was like, "Oh, I was just writing these thank you notes to all your ex-boyfriends for fucking it up." And so like,
and
so I think
in a moment, so you're just like in a moment, you're like, all right, I'm gonna play with it.
that's just off the rip. A lot of times I'll say something like that, or like, just something. I mean, dude, I don't know. Sometimes I look at myself, I'm like, you've been doing this for too long. And that's those things that are hard to be taught sometimes. I mean, they can be taught, but I think it's just a level of confidence that, if I do say something, I'm saying with full confidence and trying to be funny. And if she doesn't think it's funny, it's not the end of the world. But I think just keeping, I would say, comfortability in conversation, and just keeping a girl relaxed. Like, I'm never worried about sex. Like, I guess the last thing on my mind. I mean, it's in there.
Do you find after the post, being on the show, girls are recognizing you, and if they do recognize you, does it make it easier? Does it make it harder because they know that you're a self-proclaimed F-boy, or is it like, nah, I have it on TV, like this is just giving me some good clout?
If I meet a girl that recognizes me, it's over. Yeah. It's over. Just because it's like I'm already in there, and life is literally all about perception.
Right.
And if a girl sees me recognizing from the show, I think the biggest game changer for me is if I'm on a date. And I said this other day, if I'm on a date with a girl, I'm out with a girl that hasn't seen the show, and then someone comes up and asks me for a picture in person, then that's over too. Because then it's like, I'm like, girls are like, "Can I get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Well, actually," and then I like tell her, I'm like, "Hey, sorry, still do it real quick," and I take a picture. So I think that's
right. Dude, there's no game like fame game. That's the ultimate.
That's the ultimate. I mean, there's been some benefits for sure, and I think I took advantage of them for a long time in sometimes a healthy way, sometimes in a not healthy way, but I've learned, and it's not the most important thing anymore.
So what's new and exciting for Casey? What's in store for you next? What do you feel? Where are your ambitions now? What would you like to see yourself, moving forward?
Yeah. So I've been battling with this for a long time. Where do I want to be? And I think for me, the last couple of years, I prioritized, chasing women and having a good time. And trust me, Jared, I've had an amazing time. I've done a lot of crazy shit with a lot of crazy people, and I've done a lot of crazy shit with a lot of girls. But to me, the next move is like, all right, like I can't be this guy who's on reality TV forever. So I'm actually working on a really, really cool project, which I think is going to be absolutely huge. I'm launching here in Nashville a live dating show, a live podcast. I'm not sure if you ever heard of like something similar to like the vibe of like Kill Tony, or Updating.
The one where they blindfold the people. I've definitely seen that. Yeah.
So that's a dating show, and no disrespect to them, I don't think it's that good. I think it could be done very, very much better. So I'm going to be hosting a live dating show starting in January in Nashville. We have a venue. We have celebrity guests every single week. And I think, a live audience and putting people on the spot is going to be amazing. I have an amazing couple of guests for my first couple shows. So I think that's going to be the next thing for me. And it's not about me. I'm there to be your friend. I'm there to be your therapist. I'm there to help you get the girl, or the girl get the guy. So that's what I'm working on. And hopefully we can take it on tour and really make something, like I said, it's going to be called the Night We Met. So I'm still mad.
I'm going to be on the lookout for that. If you ever get a giant pool of guys you're looking for a girl, I got a whole some listening now, but I would, that sounds awesome, man. I'm definitely excited and going to be looking forward to watching all that. That's great.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. And if you, like I said, I think if you got a TV and got the CW, I think keep an eye out for Edgar Island.
Yep.
I'm not saying I'm a part of it, but I'm not saying that it could be really good.
Yeah, we would definitely. Yeah, if you have a TV and it's playing, definitely check out FBoy Island. Shit's about to go down. And one more time, the name of the show, what you're putting together in Nashville?
Yeah, it's gonna be called The Night We Met.
The Night We Met.
We
And
Met.
that's what, YouTube, or where we find that?
Yeah, you can find that on YouTube. And if you're in Nashville, there'll be a live show as well.
Awesome. All right. I might have to stop by Nashville, man. I might want to see this for myself.
Yeah.
Night We Met.
Yeah, we'll have you on as a guest. We'll have you on as a guest. We won't pawn you off. It looks like you're very happy, but we'll have you come on and
He's in the girl too, so maybe you have your first. Both of us together can decide on the girl. I don't know. She'd have to be down with it also, but
I love it. I love the idea. We'll have to run that. We'll have to.
if you have a girl,
talk more about that.
If you have a girl on this show who's bi and likes couples,
Yeah,
I think me and my girl can dominate that. So that'd be fun.
we could chat more about that. That would be an amazing show.
I'm down. I'd be. I gotta talk to Anna, but yeah, I'd be interested. So
Yeah.
dude, awesome having you.
Yeah.
Be super down to collab again and talk. I think there's so much
sure.
more that we can cover that we just do not have time for.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, words of wisdom before we wrap this up?
No, man. I think the best advice I can give you is be the best version of yourself, and you're gonna attract whoever the fuck you want. Believe it. You are that guy, and every time you step out of the house, remind yourself, I'm that guy.
Remind yourself you're Casey. All right, just tell yourself what would Casey. We're gonna start that move. What would Casey do? All right, in that moment.
Be delicate with
That's
that.
what you guys would
Delicate.
do. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you again. Thank you so much, Casey.
Yeah. Thank you, man. We'll talk soon. All right.